everyone to the Subject 4 podcast. We are a fan-made podcast about the Matthias Spellbound Incorporated channel on YouTube called Project 863. We are going over today episode 4 of season 2. We shouldn't have been here. He caught us breaking in. It was a terrifying episode and we have a lot to go over. But before I do that, I would like to introduce our guest today. He is the Spellbound superstar. Brandon, well, first of all, say hi.
Hello, everyone.
Can you tell us a little bit of what happened on day 1 with Spellbound?
Yeah, absolutely. So day 1 was crazy, as most of you know. The power of Subject 4 is immense, and basically you guys kind of overloaded the entire website in a matter of minutes of it going live, and basically everything kind of got blocked down, and people weren't able to get into the website. So I had the pleasure of, whenever I could personally get in, every once in a while, sending out alerts and letting everybody know, hey, this is what's going on. We appreciate you guys for being patient with us. I also had the pleasure of kind of starting our first bug log, which we are working actively on, trying to fix and get everything in order for you guys to make sure everything runs as smoothly as possible. It was a crazy day, to say the least.
Well, we did hear Matthias talk about behind 863. We did hear him talk about that he and Samantha were classified as bad actors.
Yeah, so basically the entire, I think it was Blue Base, the entire Blue Base got banned. And
really?
They had to, they had to go and use access over at one of the other bases to confirm that. And it turns out that, Mighty Networks thought they were the bad actors and banned them from, their own product.
Wow. So basically you were moderating and you were on Matthias's website when he could not get on the website.
Yeah,
his
pretty
own
much.
Website. So yes. And I mean, I was fortunate just to hear the chaos. I was not a moderator yet, and it was a fun bonfire to attend.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Lots of craziness, lots of refreshing, trying to get in so I could make announcements and things like that. Yeah. I kind of had to step into shoes that Matt couldn't step into at the time because, they wouldn't let him.
Yeah. Scotty makes a funny point here. He says they're good actors. What does it mean to be a bad actor?
Oh, so bad actor basically means from a dev side, they thought that there were some accounts that were doing bad things, such as spamming the network and overloading a bunch of things. And because of that, since they had so many people at Spellbound connecting to the network from the same IP address, they basically thought that they were the bad people and kind of blocked them out from the network, so they had no access whatsoever.
Yes. That was probably a very terrifying and fun day, and we kind of saw glimpses of it in the behind 863. So this is why we call you the superstar of Spellbound Plus.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I'll try to live up to that incredible title.
You won't, but it's okay.
Thanks.
Sorry. I've known Brandon we've only known each other for a couple weeks.
Yeah, about 3 weeks now.
Yeah, about 3 weeks. Yeah, but yeah. So you'll hear us teasing each other, especially him. Him. He knows how to push my buttons.
Yeah, I like to do things that makes Artemis upsetty spaghetti, and she just has to deal with it.
Oh my god, I hate that saying. Upsetty spaghetti.
Yeah.
Please. We're gonna probably get fan art of upsetty spaghetti or something like that. I don't know. But we're gonna probably see it. I'm gonna probably see it everywhere I go now. No, it's such a dumb saying.
if anybody out there makes upsetty spaghetti monster drawings, I will totally cheer it.
Rubber Ducky just said it's on his list.
There we go. Awesome.
No. Okay. Anyways. I do want to warn everyone who is here attending live, or if you are listening on the recording, we are going to discuss BTS like we just have. We were talking about behind the scenes 863. There will be a raise of the curtain. If this is not not your thing, we do have an episode that Matthias guest starred in where he stays in character the entire time. There's no raise of the curtain, so you don't get any of that BTS. So I did want to make that warning. It's just gonna happen because we're also the character development to the theories and the storyline. I mean, sometimes we're gonna have to dig behind the scenes to see if we can find some stuff there.
Oh, also, one quick thing that I did want to touch on. If there is anybody that is listening that has ever, had the need or the want to kind of start their own podcast or a talk show with their friends or anything like that, one of the services that we use is called Buzzsprout, and they actually make our jobs incredibly easy when it comes to distributing the podcast out for, millions, thousands of people to listen to. We can actually upload it to one place, and then it goes out to all the major distributors such as Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everything like that. And one of the things that they're doing with us, since we partner with them, is any of you that actually go out there and start doing podcasts and sign up with them on their paid programs, you can actually get a $20 Amazon gift card after your second payment. And it's a way of helping us out. And it's our way of saying thank you for being listeners to those that are part of the viewership and maybe are inspired by what we do here to go out and kind of start their own thing.
I forgot to mention, you're not only just a Spellbound moderator, but you're also one of my producers. You do help me out. You do help me making public notifications. You proofread everything I send out.
Yeah.
Which, yes, this podcast uses Buzzsprout. And I want to encourage you. I am not against other people making podcasts. Go ahead and do it. Like, we're all on theory basis and stuff like this. If you would like to make a podcast of just behind the scenes stuff and talking behind the scenes, and less story bound, do it. And I highly recommend using Buzzsprout because it's just so easy to post your episode. It goes to Apple Podcasts, Google, Amazon, all these other major platforms, and then some.
The
it goes
click
everywhere.
Of a button.
Yes. Literally, you upload it and it goes everywhere. You don't have to spend time logging into your Spotify account, posting. It does it all for you. If you are interested in that, my affiliated link is in the chat. Also, like if you would rather do the character development, the characters are what inspire you the most about this story, make a podcast. I highly recommend it. You don't even have to use Discord. You can go on Twitch. You can just record your own self talking and adding music to that or whatever. They do give you tools on how to edit your podcast, how to reach your audience better. So I highly recommend them. And I encourage, if making a podcast is something that you want to do, this makes it easier for you. So I'm helping you out. You are helping me out every time you click that link and sign up with a paid account. But yes, Buzzsprout has started to affiliate us. So we do have an affiliate link there for you. So we will move on to this lovely episode. I'm going to kind of summarize right now what we just went through. Once again, we're talking about episode 4. We shouldn't have been here. He caught us breaking in. This episode picks up a couple days after they had put the tracker on the car. And because it's been a couple of days, they have observed that the pen has not moved. So the tracker, when they're discussing the pen, they're talking about the tracker, and it has not been moved. And then Matthias lets us know that Sam and Woods have a different opinion on how to go about this. Matthias wants to go in guns a-blazing. He does not care. He wants to go after them. He's sick and tired of being defense, and he wants to go on the offense. He wants to start making the plays. He's tired of the Phantom calling all the shots, or he's probably sick and tired of Deb and and John Doe kind of calling the shots. He's kind of being like a puppet on some strings. But Woods believes that it could be a trap. Samantha basically just does not want to take any unnecessary risks. So they do compromise, and then that they are going to send in a drone first. Samantha's main goal is getting the serum, and she's worried that they're going to be distracted, that as soon as they're going to get in there, that they're going to find more evidence, and that their basically investigation is going to fall apart. And for her, she just wants to get the serum and get out of there, because that's her number one objective that Deb has given them, is to get the serum. We do have a new kind of character. Quinn is now the camera operator this episode. Hopefully he will continue to be the camera operator, because I really enjoy seeing Sam. They do get into Matt's Tesla after they retrieve the drone. They get into Matt's Tesla, and they're going to where the tracker pin is. And it's kind of, in the very beginning, is kind of an awkward, silent car ride. You've got Quinn and Sam in the back seat, and Woods sitting up shotgun. And it's really quiet until Woods voices that what's bothering him, and what was bothering him is that Matt didn't come forth and say that he placed the tracker right off. And then Matt very annoyingly voices that he's annoyed that their lack of faith in him has been wavered, and he's been putting his neck on the line throughout season 1, and now, because Woods has gotten hurt in the first episode, their faith in him is kind of being tested. Woods admits he does trust Matthias. Sam does not say anything like that, though. They get to the location, and they send up the drone, and they see a warehouse and a trailer off to the side. The car is still there, and so they have to wait until the car moves off location before the team can move in. Matt gloves up, and they're the right size. I thought that was kind of funny. And when they enter the warehouse is completely empty except for clothes and fabric that are hung up everywhere. But right next to the warehouse is an RV, and there are 2 blue barrels right next to the RV. Matt goes and gets his car in case they have to bug out of there really quickly, that they have a quick escape. So they all get back in the car, drive and park close to the RV. In front of the RV is a brown substance on the carpet at the entrance of the RV. The driver door window is open, so Woods is able to open it and then crawl through the RV to let them in. And Sam is monitoring the tracker in case the Phantom makes a U-turn and comes back towards them. When they enter the RV, there is a table that has a blue tarp on top. We can see like pipettes, microscopes, test strips, graduated cylinders. There is a cooler. I don't remember what was in that cooler, but we do see that there is a cooler, one of those styrofoam cheap coolers that you can get at like grocery stores. You can see a microscope, a petri dish. There's a hypodermic needle sticking out of a vial that has red liquid in it. There's a bottle called ammunition, which Wood says is gunpowder. They also see up at the top bottle of formaldehyde. Sam starts getting agitated and worried as they're looking through all this stuff that they're getting distracted. Let's find the serum and get out. But of course, the boys are still looking. They find a hydroperoxide bottle in the bathroom with bloody gauze in the sink and those disposable yellow gloves in the sink. They find papers. Matthias really is interested in the papers. We find a Wesley Nathaniel safety deposit box paper, car rental for a Dodge car that Matthias remembers is when there was that car chase in season 1, that this is the car rental form for that, and it was rented out to a Wesley Nathaniel. They also find notes from Deb, and then Matt decides that he needs to plant the device, but then Sam says he's coming back, and she gets hysterical. So Matt is rushed to plant the device. Sam leaves just as the Phantom is pulling up. When the Phantom gets out of the car, he gets startled by Sam, who is now in the warehouse. She runs back to the RV, telling the boys they need to get out. But as they're doing that, they find the serum, they get back in the Tesla, and they realize that they got most of the serum back. So that was the episode in a nutshell on what we just went through, and it was a wild ride.
Yeah, it was a crazy one for sure.
It really was. So
I feel like that's the longest episode recap we've had.
Well, I mean, our last podcast, we went over 2 episodes. So yeah, there was so much information and so much to gather. And what did you find? Did you find anything in this episode that stood out to you?
So, I mean, a lot of the things that stood out to me as far like big things is clearly the Phantom has some sort of injury, or due to something that like one of the things that makes him dependent on, you know, the serum or life's blood or whatever it may be, is he's hurting, clearly by like the bloody bandages and gauze and everything in the bathroom. One of the other things too is like if you look over like the ingredients that are on the table in the RV, one of those is potassium permanganate. It can be used when diluted. It can be used for treating wounds, and in like to limit infections, it can be diluted with water. So he's having a bad time. One of the things too that you mentioned is the rug out front. There's holes in that rug as well. So I'm not sure if it's whether like it could be from him like vomiting because some mixture or something like that didn't go through or work right, or it could be where something reacted wrong while he was trying to make serum and he dumped it out on the ground and not thinking the rug was outside of the front door, and so he just wanted to get it out of the RV as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Anthony Blaze just said something very, very, very curious in the chat. He said that they said they should put the tracker in the RV as well.
So it's one thing to think about in that is that they did leave a cell phone as a two-way like listening device.
Which would probably have GPS.
It would probably have GPS on it, so there may be some aspect of that they can use to track it. Granted, it's not going to be as accurate as like the tracker they put on the Phantom's SUV.
The Ford Explorer. I mean, I was going over all the chemicals and even breaking down the chemicals, like what's in gunpowder. Gunpowder is also known as black powder. It has charcoal, an oxidizer, and sulfur. Usually for black powder, like gunpowder, the oxidizer is saltpeter. And I just went down like a rabbit hole on how to make black powder. I also went down a rabbit hole on what kind of RV it was. It was a 1993 Tioga, Montana. We believe it's a 1993. We can't really, it's been modified. It has. So
yeah, and then one of the things that we kind of talked about too was that, you know, the MREs, he was cooking the MRE on the stove. There are some MREs that you do make over like an open fire. However, like your standard issue MREs, whenever there's food that needs to be heated up, they generally come with a flameless heat packet. And those heat packets are generally made up of a combination of food grade iron and magnesium, as well as salt and water. And when this water is poured onto the heating element, then it releases temperatures up to 100 plus degrees. And it could be that he's extracting either the potassium, or not the potassium, but the magnesium, or the iron, because Woods also noticed that there was ferrofluid in the RV as well. And we were kind of looking at that as, you know, ferrofluid has been used to treat different kinds of like deep tissue cancers and other things of that nature as well.
It's in studies, usually in medicine. Ferrofluid, it's the contrast agent for magnetic resonant imaging, also known as MRIs. But it is interesting that you bring up the MRE, because what brought us to that was he was cooking it incorrectly. Like if you already have a flameless heater packet, why are you cooking it on the stove? So it could be that he's just eating the food and using those chemicals for whatever he's making in this RV. Because to me, with any kind of chemistry problem and a puzzle that you have to break down like every chemical that you have in its raw form. And what can that do? What can that be like? What can it be used for? Like the potassium permanganate, right? Permanganate, that could also be used as an oxidizer in gunpowder, but it's unstable, so people say don't use it because it can combust. So it's just interesting. And why do you need black powder? Like, what in medicine can you use black powder for? I have not researched that.
Well, I mean, black powder can also be used to, it can be used to rapidly cauterize wounds as well.
True. And we do know he's bleeding.
Yeah.
Another theory that I have seen on Spellbound, when the Phantom, we'll get to the Phantom's name later, the Phantom comes walking up towards the RV, we see that one of his lights are out on his mask. And I was telling you before this that it could be that side of the mask, like that cartridge, has run out of liquid, and that's why he had to do this U-turn to come back. You had a theory on that.
I was saying, what I was thinking is that it's already like pre-existing damage. Maybe the spill that we see out front of the RV, it could be that he thought he had a correct mixture for the serum, and he had loaded it into a cartridge and then attempted to use it, and it didn't react the way that it was supposed to. And that could also be why he was bandaging himself in the bathroom. That damage to the mask could have already been pre-existing prior to him coming back, because we never actually saw him when he was leaving on the drone footage.
There's so much to go through. What do you think about we do have some evidence that can be found on Spellbound Plus. So if you're a Spellbound Plus member, if you go, Matthias had updated the evidence list that we are able to see as long as you are a Spellbound Plus member. This is the premium package, not just being a regular member. This is the paid accounts.
Yeah, if you're a Project 863 Plus subscriber.
Yes. You can see that the evidence, all the paperwork that they have uploaded is there. Let's go ahead and look at the storage one. I'll read it to everyone here. It says, "Hello, Mr. Nathaniel. We've received your inquiry concerning unit number 17 at our facility, but I regret to inform you that your account has already been closed. The date I have filed for account closure is November 8th, 2000. Unfortunately, paperwork for closed accounts from that long ago are usually shredded, so I cannot offer much more information than that. If you're concerned about the items that have been left in the unit after closure, please note that the public storage is not responsible for any items that are left behind once keys have been returned to the office. Any item in the unit is subject to auction or trashing once our staff has gone inside of the unit in order to clean it. The public storage does not keep personal items from expired units. If you have any other questions, please visit public storage website, blah, 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 blah." So I have a question for you, Brandon, and I want you to build a theory off of it, okay? Why is he now trying to get into a storage unit that was closed 21 years ago? Where has he been? Why does he need it now?
I think it was possible that the storage unit that he had was housing lab equipment, things that he had maybe salvaged or taken from the company like prior, and was storing off-site, due to the fact that, I mean, if you look at what he has in the RV, that's not what you would normally have in a lab to make a serum. Like, you don't have like Bunsen burners, things like that. I think he may have been trying to get access to, things that he could more properly make a serum with.
Yeah. And well, my question though is, why do we have this age gap?
It could, in all honesty, it could be a situation where it's stuff that was in a storage unit that he thought may have had, a existing payments. Like, I've had storage units in the past where I've paid for like a year in advance because it's not something that I want to have to worry about every month. and like fit other bills around and things like that. So I've paid years in advance for that storage unit in one lump sum because it's easier that way. It could be a thing where he thought that they had paid, so far in advance on that storage unit. And when it's a bill that you're not constantly worried about, you don't check in on it. So whenever he finally reached out to it, it could be a situation where, hey, I have this storage unit, maybe I can get stuff out of it. And then he's later finds out that, it's been closed since 2000?
Yeah. So we got a 21-year gap. And I do see that there's no date on this letter, but I'm thinking it's pretty recent.
Compared to some of the other documents they found, it looks to be, fairly recent. It's very clean.
So why 21-year-old storage unit? Why is he wanting it now, though? At this moment, he wants the stuff that's in it now. He didn't want it 21 years ago.
He could have had like an existing backlog of like serums and things like that, and it wasn't until now that whenever he's, started to break into what is now Spellbound Incorporated, that he, up until this point, he had means to survive, or maybe his condition, whatever it may be, has progressively and rapidly gotten worse.
Well, to that, let's go ahead and jump to one of the letters that we have here on 863 plus. This is from Deb. I'll go ahead and read it because there's a lot, and like there was a lot in this episode. Like I like to look at the table and I want to dissect everything that's on the table chemistry wise, but just like there's so many ingredients on the table, this letter also has so many ingredients to plug in to theories. So I'll go ahead and read it. And again, this is Deb to Wesley. I don't know how many times I've started and stopped a letter like this. I've never really been good at expressing my emotions this way, and I keep second guessing what I should be saying to you. I don't even know if this will reach you, or if you're in any kind of mental state where you would know what I'm saying, or if you'd even recognize me. But in case there's still a small amount of you deep down, I want to help. I always have. I don't care what you have to say to Nelson. You have to stop the serum injections. It's warping your mind and your body. The antidote is almost complete, but I fear at this point I might be too late. But I can't pin this all on Nelson. I hold plenty of responsibility here. Perhaps if I was working harder, longer, without the human limitations that plague me every day, this wouldn't have happened. I'm deeply sorry for the part I have played in all this. I can't help you the longer you stay close to him. Once it's complete, he won't give you the antidote. No matter what he says, it'll always be, finish this task, or if you complete this, I'll set you free. He'll continue to use you until there's nothing left. You can't trust him. That's the only way you'll be able to break free. Please just listen to me one last time, D. Before I ask you what your theory is on that, I do have a theory on this letter. It comes from Comp Sci Girl 523. She says, I still maintain that D3B is a computerized version of Deb. In the letter, she says she wishes she could work harder, longer, without the limits of a mortal body. D3B could be an AI she developed to work out things for her when she as a human cannot. So what do you think about that, Brandon?
I mean, that's definitely like a probable possibility. Because I mean, there were even times in previous episodes where she mentioned that she doesn't have much longer, and we still don't know like if that's the case, if she's actually no longer with us in human form or not. It could definitely. There's also one thing to note about the letter. The letter's not, at least to like the information that we have, it's not dated.
Yeah.
The paper also, if it was kept in an envelope and like sealed away or somewhere safe, then it could have easily been protected from like yellowing and stuff like that. It's hard to tell when this letter was written. I mean, granted, it was found with a bunch of letters and documents and stuff that
it's torn and it's
and it's hard to tell how long he's had it in his possession in regards to that. The one thing to kind of touch on is she says, I don't care what you have to say to Nelson. You have to stop the serum injections. It's warping your mind and your body. The antidote is almost complete, but I fear at this point I might be too late. Touching on that, it sounds like the serum could be bad for him, but he's become so dependent on it in order to, it could be staving off the pain that he's having or things like that. I mean, one thing kind of touching back to the episode when he, there was the first break-in to the studio and the injection needle and everything was found, behind Sam's couch in her office. And whoever that was let out a scream. We still don't know if that was a scream out of frustration, if it was a scream out of pain. There's clearly something that's debilitating happening to him. And at this point, we don't know if the serum is causing it and he's just addicted to some property in it, or if the serum is a temporary pain reliever, if it's sustaining him and his ability to function somewhat normally.
Yeah.
And Deb saying that it's warping his mind and his body also kind of gives off the vibe that, maybe it's not sustaining him so much. Maybe it's causing him problems, but he's addicted to whatever compounds are in it.
Well, Joshi just posted a Spellbound article written by Lily863. Basically, in her post, it basically says that she believes that Wes was the test subject for the serum. Is that what you're getting at?
I feel like he's definitely one of them.
Yeah, because we do have that recording where someone is being tested on, but it's Deb and Wesley talking in the background, so he can't really be tested on and having a conversation with Deb, right?
And screaming in agony occasionally.
Yes. So we do know that there were more test subjects. So, well, okay, let's get down to this theory, or this question, because I'm probably going to play devil's advocate on everyone here, okay? And that is one of my favorite things. The evidence that we got today, do we believe that the Phantom is Wesley? Do you believe that, Brandon?
It's possible. However, it could be a misdirection on his behalf. Maybe he has, either penned these letters himself or had somebody else pen these letters.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the possibility if something were to happen to him and somebody were to find him, this would be in with the evidence that is gathered in that situation. Say if, for example, say he were to have diagnosed or, developed a serum that didn't work and he accidentally killed himself. And then at the time that there was an investigation into the RV and everything like that, there would be a paper trail pointing to Wes and incriminating Wes and things like that, even if it's not necessarily Wes that is the Phantom.
Well, here's my devil's advocate theory. He has all this possession, the safety deposit box, the car rental, this letter from Deb that all say Wesley Nathaniel. Could it be a Phantom is also one of the test subjects that we heard on the recording that, Wesley, okay, how do I describe this? So we know that Wesley was a test subject. We do know that because of the letter. We know that there are other test subjects. Could this Phantom being piggybacking off of trying to follow Wesley's shoes to find the antidote? So that's just his evidence on trying to find the antidote or even to look for Wesley. If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
To a degree, yeah.
So it could just be another test subject that's just using Wesley Nathaniel's name to cure him, to investigate. I don't know, because it's I would hate to be like, yep, it's Wes the entire time, the Phantom. But we know that there are other workers. We know that there are other Phantoms, correct?
It's under the assumption, because one thing to keep in mind, the person that broke in originally, we still don't necessarily know who that was, and they didn't have on a mask.
Yeah. because the first one, yeah, when we saw them in the alley, he was not wearing a mask. But it was also no, he got serum then too, didn't he? Interesting. Well, I would hate to just be like, yep, it's Wesley, and then find out it was a misdirection. And knowing the writers, it could be. So we'll see though. I would say I'm about 63% it could be Wesley. I'm just playing devil's advocate here, that it could be another Phantom who is also trying to find the antidote, where Deb is promising Wesley to find the antidote. But Wesley probably is still Cyphus's sidekick. And maybe another test subject, who's the Phantom, has found this letter and is realizing that Deb might have the antidote. He doesn't have to be like a slave to Cyphus. And he's trying to basically go back to go back for the beginning. And what's the beginning is the studio that Spellbound Incorporated is in right now. So that could be why he's like haunting the place, you know? So it's just one of those theories out there that I just made up off the top of my head just to be a jerk and play devil's advocate, make you guys all second guess yourselves. So do we have any more theories? Do you have anything else? I think we kind of went over what we have. I know that the audience is all like, we have so much to say.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely, and I've pretty much covered most of the things that I've theorized from the episode.
So, okay. Let's go ahead and open. Hi, Grace, you're muted. There you are.
Hey, Grace.
So, what is your burning question or theory or discovery or even observation that you have on this episode, Miss Grace?
Honestly, when I observed the new evidence, I just realized that it's a possibility the Phantom that injured himself or to themselves was probably hurting deep inside, like when they found the letter that Deb wrote. And also it's a possibility that this person was rushing through things or trying to like get the addiction, what Brendan said earlier about the addiction part.
Mm-hmm.
It's a possibility that this person probably mixed up the chemicals in the wrong way, but then realized that they didn't have enough time before Matt and the crew came into the RV to investigate. And also noticed that like what they said about the Phantom being injured with the eye thing that being broken, it's a possibility that he did injure himself or to himself, depending on what they did before they investigated.
Yeah. So what do you, that kind of goes with what you were saying, right, Brandon?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Wait, okay. So the stuff that's in front of the door, that's you're thinking is a bad batch of life's blood.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
Or is life's blood, it's not a bad batch of life's blood, is the bad batch of the cure, right? Because we have the serum, we know about the serum. But it should be like the bad batch of the cure, because the antidote that Deb had mentioned, right?
But the one thing that we don't 100% know is they've found the, you know, what they're calling serums. They've found the serums in like two separate places. So far they've found the clear serum and now they've found the red serum. The other thing too is we don't know if is life's blood, is that the cure, or is what's being referred to as lifeblood, is it another like element to, you know, make a antidote?
Yeah. Well, with the science girls, we know that, I mean, with all the research that they were doing with like real life science, I will say they were able to track down something called the Desmond gene mutation. And it was through the evidence that is posted on 863 Plus about the Desmond gene mutation, which is a 2-part serum. But the only thing that does not fit in real science that's in the story is the radioactivity. Because I was talking with a person who studies nuclear medicine, and they basically said that when you want to change someone's genetics, you use a virus because you can program a virus to target that specific gene to mutate it. like the Desmond gene. You can do your research on the Desmond gene. It's basically it's almost like a super soldier serum. Like it's almost like to do that. But anyway, I digress. The nuclear medicine guy basically said that you don't want to use radioactivity. You don't want to use like chemotherapy or radioactivity to change genetics, because when radioactivity comes in contact of DNA, it basically destroys it. So he says a virus is like a sniper rifle, precise and quick, whereas radiation would be like a shotgun shells, and you would just damage the whole entire genome basically. So we kind of ran into a dead end with the Desmond gene therapy, but it would fit. It would be a two-parter. It would be the clear and the red. And if we're going to go on to that genetic route where we're mutating genes, you would need two serums. And if something horribly goes wrong with that, you would need an antidote. So there might be a third one coming. And Deb's working on this third one. I don't think the red is the antidote. Do you?
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, it could be, but at the same time, like it would be odd for the antidote to be spread out in multiple locations. Unless
it was unfinished and they were just basically saving their work somewhere safe. I don't know.
To keep it out of the hands of Cyphus, possibly, yeah.
Well, we just gave you more questions, Grace. So thank you so much for your observation, Grace.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No problem.
All right, thanks.
It was nice talking to you guys.
Pleasure
nice
talking to you as well.
All righty. Yeah, it's just, especially with the science girls, it's difficult trying to apply real science to something like this. So we could just be trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, but it's nice that the science that they're finding was directly related to what they found in the Mountaineer. So it's not like they researched and said, oh, it could be this, and has no attachments to the story.
Right, and they just interjected it into the story on their own.
Yeah, no, their research, which they post on Spellbound, it's directly from the story. It's what they're getting. But
and they're very thorough.
Yeah, they are. And I mean, they were going over a document the other day. They were asking me to translate something in Latin, which had a typo in it, which was weird, really weird. Like it was a seal. If Comp Sci Girl and Mistress, I see Mistress is here. If you can remember what that document is, I don't remember what it was called. DM me, but it was basically
Comp Sci's here too.
Yeah, okay. I tried so hard to translate this for them, and it wasn't coming up with anything, and it was really difficult. Let me see. I have my paperwork here. There it is. Interveniousum caleosum clare obscurus.
Say that 5 times fast.
No, I don't even want to try. Which basically translated is we find blank because caleosum, CLAOSUM. There's no such word in Latin. Calere, hide, obscurus, forget. So we find blank, hide, forget. That's the direct translate you get when you try to translate this. And I was I thought it was a typo to a part of the brain. But then as I researched this document, there was a date on it. It was the interfusion detector removal document. It had like writing on the side and stuff. It had a date on it, August 21st, 1964. So if you Google August 21st, 1964, Dr. Amar, you get the ICSU archives, which is the International Council for Science, which brings you to a DeviantArt account, an artist's account of that exact document. And I'm all like, oh, it's a freaking dead end because some artist made it. So I'm all like, well, that's a red herring. So the girls are very thorough, and it sucks when you pour so much research into a document and it leads you nowhere because it turns out it's just a red herring. So it was those documents. It's interesting, and I really applaud them for all their hard research. And there's a lot more people out there going through those documents as well. Lycus, I see Lycus is here. He also goes through those documents too. His research is also right up there. In fact, he was some of his articles have been on the We Are 863. So applauds to you guys. I've been watching you guys. So I've been reading your guys' stuff. So
She's always watching.
always watching. So let's bring someone else up here.
Hello, how are you guys doing?
Doing well, Nugs. How are you?
Before I come on in with the energy that I have been told that I have.
Yes, you have a lot of energy.
It's great.
Yeah.
I thought I'd talk about kind of the character development side. To give a little background on myself, I do a lot of things where you have to create a character and you act out that particular character and you have to kind of structure how they would develop throughout a story. And so story character development really is something I'm really into. So and I think this episode has a lot of it. And so I won't talk a whole long time about it. I could, but I won't. And I think one thing that I found really important from this episode would be the car ride. You were saying
it was awkward.
It was really awkward, but I think that conversation that they had there was very important as far as them working as a team goes, because at this point, Matt, who's trying to do a lot of this himself, which I'll also get into in a bit, he's kind of straying away from working as a team and trying to do everything himself. And obviously Woods and Samantha are concerned for him because of that. The fact that he's not telling them things and whatnot. And I think that conversation that they have kind of brings that back a little bit, kind of gives him something to think about as a person, how he's interacting with them as a team. Sam says that we need to work as a team here, and we're really not. So yeah, you guys have anything on that before I continue? Or
well, I do have this question because it's either or. Nobody's in the middle here.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Which one were you frustrated with the most? Were you frustrated with Samantha or Matthias the most in this episode?
Throughout the episode itself?
Yes.
Or
just this episode?
See, that's a question that I've been thinking about this entire time.
Which one is more annoying?
And I don't want to say that. I mean,
it's okay to say Matthias.
No,
it's
right.
Totally okay.
I think, honestly, I do think that with what Matt was trying to do, trying to analyze this stuff around, obviously they didn't have a lot of time, and the music throughout the episode kind of built that up. But I think going through at least quickly with what they had found, even taking some pictures. I haven't seen the pictures on Spellbound Plus, so I don't know if they were taken at the studio, if they were taken in the camper. I doubt they were taken in the camper, given what was going on. But I think they could have gone through stuff more instead of just arguing the whole time. But honestly, I think, to answer your question fully, because I'm kind of ranting on. Sorry. I think in a way it would be Sam, because I felt
the same way, and so many people on Spellbound were like, Matthias is mean.
She wanted to do. She had sort of tunnel vision, I guess is a good way to say it. She came in with that mentality of, I'm going to get the serum and I'm going to get out.
Yeah.
She couldn't get out of that.
I did see. Well, with your character development, I did see somebody on Spellbound. I see Possession on Spellbound, just the regular Spellbound.
Okay.
Basically, they said it's a stressful situation, but I'm going to point this out, not necessarily suggesting anything, but Wes has gotten more and more aggressive. So has Matt. And both is because of the serum. So the serum is having physical effects on Wes and psychological effects on Matt. As soon as Matt decided he's not going to play nice anymore and be less passive, Wes mirrored that. Wes is desperate. Well, that's not necessarily true. Wes has always been, well, okay, I don't want to call him Wes. The Phantom. The Phantom has always been aggressive. And it's like Matt is now catching up. But this icy possession here says that they believe that it's because of the serum and being around the serum and it's having its effects on Matt. And way back in the first episode, somebody pointed out that Matthias was not wearing his gas mask. Like he took it off and gave it to Woods, and that could be affecting him because he's being exposed to it. And you can also see aggression with Woods, because Woods was also very much exposed to it a lot because he was passed out in the front in the upstairs.
Did we confirm that was, sorry to interrupt, did we confirm that was serum, or was that just smoke?
We don't know.
Or are we just,
it's still an unknown.
Right, okay. I wasn't sure if something was confirmed.
But to piggyback off of both of these theories, maybe what was in the smoke is triggering this kind of aggression.
Right, okay, I like that.
So just to go with this kind of character development, like, I mean, but I also think like Matthias might be mimicking what's in all of our heads, that we are all kind of frustrated. We were frustrated in season 1 because the lack of, like, it was all just like text chatter and gathering information, and we're just like, we want more action. And now that we're getting more action, everyone's a little like, whoa, calm down. You know, I hate to be the Karen a Kids Bop, but calm down.
And I think that also has to do with, you know, you were talking about Matt's aggression and whatnot, and I think that also, you know, he's obviously one of the most important characters of the story as the leader of the group. You know, he was talking in the car that he was the leader and he wants them to trust him, right? But I think with Matt's character development, he was talking I think it might have been it was probably a behind 863 video, where throughout the season 1, his character was going through, you know, not necessarily doing a lot as far as action, and then not, you know, and now in season 2, I think his character's gone from not doing a lot to doing too much, to the point where his relationship with the team is kind of, he's trying to do too much himself. But I think that the fact that he's trying to do too much is pulling him away from the team from that. And I think that's something he'll have to overcome this season as he slowly grows to want to do more himself, as it's kind of gone these past few episodes. I think he's going to have to, you know, especially with that conversation, I think he's going to have to, the conversation in the car, I think he's going to think about that, you know, team player. I was kind of trying to do everything myself all at once. So, yeah. And
what do you think, Brandon? What do you think about these characters?
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing.
Yeah, Brandon, what do you think?
I didn't want to interrupt. So I mean, there's one thing, like, I could definitely see that there's probably the pathway that there could be some chemical additive that was in the smoke that filled the studio. I think it could also be some of, like, Matthias has, like, all this weight on his shoulders, as far as, like, you know, he runs the company. They're his employees, they're his friends, and he's got so much weight on his shoulders to keep them out of harm's way, that I think some of the agitation that he has could stem from, like, that inner self-doubt of, you know, maybe he's starting to feel like he's not doing enough.
Right, and that's kind of what I was saying, you know, back in season 1, where he kind of felt he was doing enough, and now I think he's going through that thing where he acknowledges the fact he wasn't doing enough, but is now going into wanting to do too much all at once.
Yeah, and I think that due to that, like, that mindset that he's in from that, that I don't feel like he necessarily feels as if the team isn't trusting him. I think it's more that he's afraid to say that he's doing certain things because that inner self-doubt that he isn't doing enough or making the right choices.
Oh,
And
gotcha.
he
Okay,
wants
I
to
like
he
that.
wants to just like act out impulsively on
Right.
the thoughts, and that like the whole thing with them immediately getting into the car and chasing the Phantom down, even though in his head he knew that he had planted a tracker on the SUV. He still wanted to like go right then. He didn't want to, since he feels like the team may start to lose trust in him, and he doesn't want to put that out there immediately and then them go against him. He doesn't want to give them that chance to have that doubt.
Right. No, I like that a lot. I completely agree.
Yeah, and it's also like overprotectiveness of a dad. One of his kids has been hurt, right? So one of his kids has been hurt, and he's frustrated because he's the leader, and he was basically hurt under his watch. So
Daddy
could be
Matthias.
that. I mean, I did get a DM earlier this week on someone, and I appreciate you, Nugs, for coming up here and talking about character development.
Yeah,
This
no
podcast
problem.
is your guys' observations. That includes theories, that includes evidence, that also includes character development. Because not only do we have the science, and I'm really heavy into the science because it's like I feel like science can probably point us and answer a lot of questions, but I think actually the characters, if we look more at the characters are going to answer our questions a lot better than what the science is gonna. I just happen to have a scientific brain that I just like it. I have to fix this puzzle.
Yeah.
So
And
I appreciate
think,
that, Nugs.
Yeah, character development is such an important thing of the story, which is why, it's something really important to look at when you were, when you're watching something like this, that character development.
Yeah.
I won't talk too much. I don't want to take the time out of other people.
It's gonna be weird for you to edit your voice. I know.
I've already done it many times. I'll do it again and again and again.
I appreciate the question. Thank you so much, Nugs.
Yeah, no problem.
All right.
Thanks for having me on. I was really hoping to. I don't have any background noise. Yay.
Yay. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Yep.
Thank you.
Have
Nugs.
a good day. Yep.
Hello and welcome.
And yes, you are following me. I saw that.
Yes, I knew it. I was like, yeah, okay.
And I am actually working on a new post, and this theory is what the post is going to be about.
Sweet, we're getting the inside scoop.
I actually agree with you. It is not Wes.
You don't think it's Wes? Okay,
No.
Please tell us why. Maybe you'll be able to dictate my thoughts better, like what I was thinking better than what I can.
Okay, so I'm somewhat of a scientist myself. I wanted to go into science, but realized there's not much money into it, and so didn't. But and so I was looking at the table where he is doing his experiments and all of that stuff, and it looks like he's trying to reverse engineer the serum. And that made me start to think. Back when they at the beginning of the season, Deb was saying that Wes was the one that knew the recipe, knew how to make the serum.
Yeah.
And that means Nelson doesn't. And Deb was saying that Nelson is trying to find the serum so he can reverse engineer it and make more of it. And so it wouldn't make sense for Wes to have to collect the serum because he could just make more of it. And and then going into the cure, well, that doesn't quite make sense with the whole thing of the letter saying that Nelson is getting inside Wes's head, being able to control him. I think that's where the mind controlling is coming into play, is that Nelson has control over his phantoms. Once they start taking that serum, they start to lose more and more control. And that's why Deb was saying it might be too far gone. It might be too late.
Yeah, it's warping his mind and his body.
Exactly. And so then it comes to the play of, like, it wouldn't make sense for Wes to even be a part of with Cyphus entirely, because if Nelson had Wes, you could just get the recipe from Wes.
Yep.
And the way when Deb said that she was no longer in contact with Wes, I heard something in her voice that I didn't recognize until later on, of that deep sorrow of loss. I truly think Wes is no longer with us. And that because she paused. There was that pause and silence before she said she was no longer in contact with him.
Yeah.
It seemed like she doesn't want to say right away that Wes was dead, but she doesn't, because maybe she doesn't want to admit it to herself that Wes is gone.
What do you think, Brandon?
I definitely I agree with that as well. And that's also why I was saying it's kind of the lack of dates on the letters from Deb to presumably Wes that were found in the RV. There's no way to know when those letters were written. They could have been letters that were written, and it could be a situation where, you know, Nelson intercepted those letters and is now holding them, kind of relating back to like the theory of them being there for possible, you know, evidence measures. If something were to happen to him, someone would find that information and tie like wrongdoings or things like that to Wes, because he's absolutely right. There is in that dialogue, there's she pauses, and it's a very long pause. It's that same exact pause that you would have if you wanted to say like you knew somebody was deceased or no longer with you, but you didn't want to say it because it makes you emotional.
There's one thing that you said, I'm going to probably go on a rabbit trail for a second, but there's one thing you said that you believe that there's some form of mind control that Cyphus is using over the phantoms, and it could be being used upon Wes. So you're leaning that this mind control is more of a chemical form than hypnosis.
Yes.
Okay.
So I've actually before even 863, I have actually have looked into those articles myself even before all of this. And so when I saw that pop up, I immediately knew what that page was back in the first season.
Yeah.
And researching into that, those tests went nowhere. There was actually the only time that actually worked is if the person was right next to the radio tower. The radio waves had to be so high frequency to actually enter the brain that once they got so far away from the radio tower, that they just dissipated and they could no longer affect the person. And there actually is there's a chemical, I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but it's a sulfur derivative with a mixture of a couple other things, but it basically has the nickname the truth serum. It's not quite like the movies where you're just immediately going to blabble everything out. It makes you more susceptible to suggestion, where someone can ask you a question and you're more willing to answer it, but if you have a strong enough will, you can still fight it. And I will find the name of that and put that into my post once I actually get it all together on Spellbound.
I know that's one of the things on posting. It's like, wait, I want to include this. I want to include this. And then once you post it and you read what you wrote, you're like, oh, I forgot something.
Yep.
So, yeah, I look forward to reading it. Everyone, please check out his posts on Spellbound. Follow him. Follow also, like, I mean, I like people who are thinking outside of the box, trying to look at the evidence and trying to find answers, not just is Woods okay? Sorry. Yeah, Brandon can tell you that was fun.
Yeah, good times.
Yeah, it was like there was like hundreds of is Woods okay? Is Woods okay? Is Woods okay?
In all actuality, guys, he was just in the bathroom. His words.
I was washing his hands. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Lycus.
Yeah, thanks for having me on here.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you. All right. I think we have time for one more. Hi.
So my theory is that Wesley is the Phantom because in referring back to when they were talking to Deb, she said she lost contact and something bad happened, so she had to scatter the other half of the serum. So I'm thinking that he was tricked by Nelson to, like, consume that serum and then it be mind controlled. And so then he became a phantom, and Deb was trying to send Wes letters to make him stop listening to Cyphus, but it never worked.
I mean, I just watched Black Widow this last weekend. I don't know if you've seen it. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but there was a character in Black Widow that was kind of like the hitman that was being brainwashed into doing the bad guy's dirty deeds. So I can see, I mean, I definitely, like, I'm 60% there thinking that it's Wes. I just don't want to 100% agree with it, because there is that devil's advocate jerk side of me that wants to second guess everything. So I do like the evidence that you said. She did say that she's no longer in contact. We do know that somebody is also steps ahead of them that kind of has an idea where these serums are, because the last serum that they tried to collect, the Phantom was there before they were, because Wes helped Deb collect half of them. Because the RSD, it did not say serum detected, it said radiation spike or something like that along the lines. So it wasn't a serum that it was detecting, it was detecting that somebody had found a serum. So I can see that this could be Wes, because Wes did find half those vials. So maybe he's remembering, maybe this mind warping drug that Cyphus has him under has it so where he can't really remember where all the serums are. So, but I mean, a lot of people are in the same boat as you. Where do you stand on this, Brandon?
I mean, it's one of those things where, like I was saying earlier, it does make it hard for, like, the Deadpool's advocate, like, side, due to the fact that, you know, she mentions that, you know, her and Wes did kind of, you know, disperse remaining serums. They also, one thing to keep a note is Matt mentions whenever they're like right before it ends, when they're driving away and he has Woods check and he says they're all serums, he mentions that there's more serums there than what they've lost.
So that could be the other half that Wes has already collected.
Correct.
And they didn't know that he had already collected them, because he did not have the RSD. So
correct.
Yep. So there's a lot of evidence that's pointing to your theory, Vanderkill.
Yeah, and also I think that since they originally found some serum that was clear, and then now they're starting to find red serum, I'm thinking the red serum is life's blood.
So you think the red serum is life's blood and the clear one is just basically the mind control?
Yeah, I feel like I'm thinking maybe if you, like, mix the clear and the red serum together, then you get the cure, but
the antidote.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna like, again, we saw a list of there's a lot of chemicals on that table. We've got formaldehyde, black powder, water. Yes, even water is a chemical. It's hydrogen and oxygen, so it's a chemical. But water, we've got the potassium, we've got hydrogen peroxide, we've got the ferrofluid. So there's a lot of, basically, if you're a chemist, this is your up your alley. This is what you've been dreaming about, to find a list like this and maybe break down what's going on and what's happening. So, and then you have the chemicals and the MRI that were missing, because it's not in the shots anywhere. He could be using those chemicals in the MRI, not the MRI, the MRE, sorry. So we will see. So thank you so much, Vanderkill.
By the way, there's no N. Just to clarify.
Vaderkill, sorry. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for attending live or listening to this podcast recording either on YouTube or on all the other podcast major platforms. This is the end of the podcast, but the conversation does not end here. The conversation, you can take it to Reddit. You can take it to the Spellbound Plus. You can see me, you can see Brandon, you can even see the Spellbound team over at Spellbound Plus. So let's take the conversation there. If something that has been said in this podcast has inspired you or made a thought pop in your head, please let us know over there. You can even tag me in that post so we can basically bounce ideas off of each other. And I enjoy that. That is my cup of tea. So thank you, everyone, and good night.